All right, let's get into Friday feedback for the week. Remember, you can email info@davidpakman.com. We'll sometimes select TikTok replies or YouTube comments or messages from Facebook or Blue Sky or wherever. And remember that you can follow me on Blue Sky now at davidpakman.com/Blue Sky. Here's a funny one from user STA1L, I guess. To those who listen regularly, what are your favorite running jokes on the show? Some of the obvious ones I can think of: pillow, in reference to Mike Lindell; war against the machines; Tulsi Gabbard, from the standpoint of very strongly, bigly powerful. They came to me and said, sir. A gold one for me is Pedro from Colombia, when David still took calls from viewers. Others would be appreciated. So I take no issue with any of these, except I did make a declaration on the Tuesday show that I am moving away from the deliberate mispronunciations of people's names. Pillow is a nickname, so that is going to continue. Fear not. But Tulsi Gabbard, I'm retiring. I've been advised, especially since, there's Gabbard staffers who watch the show and we want to be taken more seriously, I guess. I don't know that I need to be taken that much more seriously, but I have decided no more Tulsi Gabbard, no more Jimmy Dore, no more Laura Ingraham. We're just going to really focus on the substantive critiques. But otherwise, this is a great list. And I welcome people who want to submit theirs as well. All right. Paula Wheatley said about my suggestion that Donald Trump will generate a crisis as a pretext to invoke emergency powers of different kinds. Paula says, I think the plan will be for this crisis to happen in the last year of his term. He will cite the FDR presidency to stay in power. There will be no election in 28 due to said crisis. Power for the rest of his life. As simple as that. Paula, with peace and love, I don't think so. I think that it's very clear that this second Trump term is going to heavily be based around changing institutions of power for MAGA to persist after Trump. But I truly do not think that Trump is going to make any attempt to stay in power. Part of the reason I don't think he will is I've been told from people who are sort of, I want to be really vague, but people who would know, that there's an idea lurking here of J.D. Vance for president in 2028 with Donald Trump Jr. running as his VP, which would be very, very scary. But especially if that's sort of the plan, then it doesn't serve the plan for Donald Trump to even attempt to do that. And I really don't think that he is going to. Okay, off of YouTube. Here's a comment. As far as I'm concerned, David, you owe an apology to every person in the military that defended the freedoms of this country, because you are trying to tear them down. Maybe you look them in the eye and spew your rubbish and your miserable rhetoric that divides this country. I don't know what on earth this person is talking about. I just have no idea. This is not a show where we attack members of the military. This is not a show where, listen, I've said it's great that we have a volunteer military as opposed to one in which you are conscripted. And it's great that there are enough people willing to join that I never even had the potential threat or risk of maybe having to. That's a great, great thing. I appreciate that. It's not my thing. It's not my thing, but it's available for other people. So this is not a show where we attack members of the military. In fact, I would say the opposite. For me, the fact that there are people who say, I don't have to do this, but I'm going to join the military so that I don't have to. I think that that is such a great thing that I want to respect and support members of the military by never sending them into harm's way as political pawns or for political retribution, arguably the way George W. Bush did with the Second Iraq War to avenge George H.W. Bush's inability to really, in a durable way, win and defeat Saddam Hussein. I think that was terrible because I don't think it shows respect to the troops. So you might have this show confused with a different one. I don't know what show, but don't know what the hell you are talking about. Magnump says, David, you should be in jail just for being woke. not to mention the clothing you wear. Listen, maybe the clothing I wear is criminal. I admit that's possible. But this is not one of those woke shows. In fact, in my forthcoming book, The Echo Machine, it's not just a critique of the right. I talk in the book about the excesses of the left because I think that they are just important to describe. If you are someone who is on the left and you believe the right has 1,000 problems and the left has none, you might not be thinking clearly. Any major big political movement is going to have its shortcomings. And I've talked about the weaponization of identity politics by some on the left as something that I oppose. Identity, important, informs our experience and our views, of course. But the weaponization of identity politics, something I have a problem with. So I've talked about it. The every perspective is equally valid stuff that exists infringes on the left. I've said I don't think it's useful. I don't think it's evidence-based. But criticize me for real stuff. This is not, this is not a wokester show in any way. In fact, if anything, I get criticized because I'm not woke enough when it comes to some of these issues. Okay, Doug says, I had lunch in a Denny's restaurant a few days ago. Overheard 3 women, obviously of retirement age, but certainly not wealthy, discussing why they voted for Trump. One of them said, because I wanted to be entertained. How do you fix that level of stupid? Well, that's an extraordinarily privileged perspective. Let me tell you what I mean by that. If you are someone who, if Trump gets his way and either cuts the child tax credit or cuts a social safety net program, if you are someone whose livelihood is going to be impacted if Trump is president, you don't have the luxury of voting for the candidate that's more entertaining. If you are someone who is worried, will I be able to get the medical care that I need or that I might choose if Trump is president? You don't have the luxury of voting for whatever sounds entertaining. So it is a level of stupid. Yes, absolutely. But it's also a level of sort of disregard for the fact that for a lot of people, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, this is not entertainment. This is not about fun and games, but this is about policy. And in some cases, it's life and death. So yeah, it's stupid, but it's also extraordinarily privileged. We did a poll on the David Pakman Show YouTube channel asking what's the biggest problem with Trump's tariffs. Almost 80,000 of you voted. 66%, a majority, said the biggest problem with Trump's tariffs is that prices will skyrocket for everyday Americans. And that's true. 17% of you said the biggest problem with the tariffs is corporations will exploit the chaos for profit. And that will probably happen as well. 10% of you said that it's just, it's just Trump's ego-driven trade war 2.0. And 7% of you said Trump's tariffs won't actually create US manufacturing jobs. Trump's tariffs could theoretically create manufacturing jobs, but they would be after Trump's gone. And it would be after everyday Americans pay a lot more. So yeah, the audience basically got it right. Many of Trump's policies will increase prices for the average American. Number one, the mass deportations will increase prices for everyday Americans. The tariffs will increase prices for everyday Americans. The tax plan, if he gets it through, probably increases prices for everyday Americans. That's the theme. He ran on all prices will come down, but with policies that will actually push prices up. All right, this is kind of funny. Last week or the week before, I talked about how the lieutenant governor of Texas wants to ban all THC. And I must have at some point talked about a 1 gram edible. Of course, I meant 1 milligram. And Reggae for President wrote on the subreddit, 1 gram THC edibles, that's crazy. David mentioned on today's show that some states break down the total THC per package and per piece. He used grams, which is insane. THC edibles are sold in milligram amounts, usually 10 milligram pieces. I guess he doesn't consume edibles. Taking a gram of oral THC would be a complete disaster. Yes, this shows you how much I know about this stuff. My example was supposed to be the package has 20 milligrams. Each piece has 1 milligram. And instead, I said something like each piece has a gram of THC. I'm not advising anyone in general on THC consumption, but I am very much advising you against consuming a gram. That would be a very, very, very crazy idea. All right, finally, Lisa says, David, you have no idea how tariffs work. They will benefit us. I wish I could talk to Lisa on the show because I would love for her to explain to me, which she doesn't do in this message, by the way. I would love for Lisa to explain to me exactly how tariffs work. Maybe I don't know. It's possible, right? I'm open-minded. Maybe everything I've learned about tariffs over the last 20 years is wrong. I want Lisa to explain to me why my interpretation of tariffs is wrong and exactly, not vaguely, exactly how they will benefit us. I want to know that. Lisa, please. info@davidpakman.com. Get your messages in. Remember to pre-order the book at davidpakman.com/book. I don't know if the freebies will continue after the new year. I'm just not sure. Hopefully they will, but they may not. Need to talk to my publisher. You can get all the free stuff currently if you pre-order the book at davidpakman.com/book and submit your pre-order receipt to davidpakman.com/free book stuff. Stay tuned for the bonus show. If you are a member, you can sign up at joinpakman.com, and otherwise, I will see you Monday.